How does a man respond when his fiancée tells him she's inviting her old flame to her bachelorette party? Not just inviting him, but asking him to stay until sunrise. For closure. What happens when he doesn't scream? When he doesn't fight? When he just gets quiet and starts making lists? This is what happens. My name is Elara Vance, and I told myself that one last night with my past was an act of honesty, not a betrayal. I called it a clean ending, an adult conversation. I said secrets are what break a foundation, so I would do it all out in the open. Liam, my fiancé, he liked quiet corners and straight lines. He liked order. He asked me once to please, just put a hard line around my history with Julian. I told him lines were cages, and that our love was bigger than a cage. I believed it, too. It made me sound brave. It made me feel like the main character. But the small signs started stacking up at home. In our small apartment overlooking the gray waters of Port Meridian, 2 coffee mugs. Every morning, they sat on opposite ends of the granite counter, like 2 lonely islands. Mine by the fruit bowl, his by the stove. The distance felt intentional, measured. A new folder appeared by the toaster, a crisp, white binder with a neatly printed label, household. His phone would flash with a reminder. Downtown, 2:45 p.m. He'd dismiss it with a single, silent tap of his thumb. How does a man respond when his fiancée tells him she's inviting her old flame to her bachelorette party? Not just inviting him, but asking him to stay until sunrise. For closure. What happens when he doesn't scream? When he doesn't fight? When he just gets quiet and starts making lists? This is what happens. My name is Elara Vance, and I told myself that one last night with my past was an act of honesty, not a betrayal. I called it a clean ending, an adult conversation, and I told myself I could handle it. At the atrium, the gallery where I worked, I told my colleagues, mature couples can navigate difficult endings. My boss, Marcus, overheard me and asked for a quick word about professional optics. I just smiled, nodded. I messaged Julian, the after party after midnight. It'll be calm. Sweet, he replied with a single camera emoji. I decided the party would prove my point to everyone. To Liam. To myself. I wanted the applause. I never wanted the quiet. The quiet is where things fall apart. I woke before the sun, the morning of the party. I stood in the kitchen, the diamond on my finger feeling heavy. Foreign. I slipped it off, placed it by the fruit bowl. I told myself the ring was a piece of metal, a symbol, not a rule. I lined up the 2 coffee mugs, side by side, right in the center of the counter. A tiny stage. Liam came in a few minutes later. His steps were always so soft. He looked at the mugs. He picked his up and moved it back to its spot by the stove. He picked mine up and placed it back by the fruit bowl. The distance was exact. Tea? He asked. His voice was level. I just want an honest day, I said. Honest air. He nodded, poured water into the kettle. That nod felt like a lid he was placing on me, on the conversation. The household binder sat there, perfectly aligned with the edge of the toaster. Building a library? I tapped its spine, my entire being split into 2. One part of me, a small, terrified voice, screamed, tell him the truth, confess, beg for forgiveness, save this, save us. But the other part, the bigger, louder, more dominant part, was consumed by pride, by the terror of being exposed, the humiliation of admitting my cheap, tawdry betrayal, admitting I was wrong, admitting I had failed. Never. I looked up at him, my husband, the man who had built our life with his bare hands, and I chose the lie. Inviting Julian after midnight? It will be adult. Clean. Like rinsing a glass and putting it away. Could we set a boundary instead? He asked, quietly. Boundaries are for people who are afraid to breathe. I'm asking for a simple no. I already told him, I said. A lie. I hadn't confirmed yet. I told him it would be a goodbye, not a drama. I called it the truth. In my head, I called it a strategy. He opened his laptop on the kitchen table. A spreadsheet was on the screen. Tiny boxes filled with initials and dates. When I moved closer, he minimized the window. Are you counting my mistakes? I asked, trying to make it a joke. Tracking household assets, he said, not looking up. Tracking is a leash word, you know. Lists prevent pain, he said. Applause prevents pain, I answered. He didn't reply. He just closed the laptop lid, set it perfectly square with the table's edge. A man who organizes the weather. I went to the bedroom and tried on my dress for the party. A slip of silver fabric that clung to me like a promise. I sent a photo to my sister, Chloe. I look like a celebration. She replied almost instantly. Celebrations don't need fire alarms, Alara. I ignored it. I messaged Julian. After hours is a go. Sweet and simple. He replied with another camera emoji and a link to a song. The one we used to call ours. I felt a little flutter in my chest. I named it Nostalgia. Not danger. Back in the kitchen, I went to the small office nook to print a schedule for the night. The room smelled faintly of printer toner, like the ghost of a long day's work. I pressed the power button. The printer whirred and fed out a single blank page. I laughed. A metaphor. I opened the top desk drawer to get more paper. It slid open maybe an inch, and then it stopped. A small, smug click. It was locked. Liam? I called out. Did you lock the drawer? His voice came from the kitchen. Just organizing. Making sure nothing gets lost this week. Organizing is just hiding in a nicer coat. I saw it then, tucked under a folder for our taxes. A tiny USB stick taped to the wood with a piece of white medical tape. Today's date was written on it in Liam's neat, precise handwriting. I tapped it with my fingernail. I left it there. I wanted him to know I saw his little treasures. I wanted him to know my story was bigger than his files. My mother called. Are you too excited? We're intense, I said, which means we're alive. Be gentle with him, honey. Gentleness is a luxury when you're building something epic. She sighed. Later, Liam asked, one last time. Did you tell Julian not to come? I told him to come, and to leave with grace. Why do you need him there at all? Because history deserves a clean edge. Edges cut. Ilara. Cuts let the light in, I said. He sighed into his sleeve, like a man smelling rain on the wind. He didn't argue again. The club was a heartbeat made of light. 1,000 tiny bulbs glittered on the ceiling. The bass pulsed through the floor, a slow wave that made you sway without even trying. My friends pulled me into a circle. Glasses clinked. To Ilara's last night of freedom, someone shouted. The word free doesn't scare me, I said into the cheer. I told myself I could hold this room like a lantern. If I held it steady, no one would get burned. They put a glitter crown on my head. It's cute, not serious, my maid of honor said. Cuteness works better than rules, I replied. Liam texted at 10:58. Need a ride home at 1? I typed back. We have a car plan. All good. He replied instantly. I just want you to be safe. I set the phone face down on the table. I told myself care can be a leash. I wanted the night to walk on its own 2 feet. Julian messaged at 12:11. Traffic broke. Be at the back door in a few. I read it, put the phone away. I stood up and checked my smile in the bar mirror. It looked like power. The DJ slid into that song, the one Julian had sent me. A wave of memory washed over the room, making it soft and hazy. I felt that old flutter in my chest. I named it History, so it would feel clean. At 12:31, he stepped through the staff entrance. Julian. He moved like someone who expected a camera to find him. His eyes met mine across the room, and they said, You look exactly like my favorite version of you. My posture said, This story belongs to me. My friends whooped. A few people from work who were there whispered to each other, pretending not to stare. Julian raised his phone, filming the table, the sparks from the dessert, the glitter on my crown. Can Port Meridian handle this much joy? He shouted over the music. The city should try, I said back. The camera flashes felt like confetti. Not evidence. We stepped out onto the smoking patio for some air. The metal door clicked shut behind us with a solid, official sound. The sound a frame makes. Does Liam like crowds? Julian asked, leaning against the railing. Liam likes plans. Plan don't dance. I do, I said. A woman next to us opened a recording app on her phone. The faint beep sounded like a tiny gate locking behind me. I felt it. I let it sit. The night wanted witnesses, and so did I. Back inside, they were chanting for a toast. I raised my glass. To grown-up love, I projected, my voice clear and steady. Love that is honest enough to say goodbye with its eyes wide open. Because closure keeps promises clean. People clapped. The right words, with the right rhythm, always feel true, even when they're not. Julian put his arm out, not touching me, but close enough. The space between us was electric. The perfect picture. The crowd read the picture, and they liked it. Julian leaned in, his voice a low whisper against the music. I need one shot to make the night perfect. Which one? The one where you look at me, he said, his eyes glinting. Like I'm a past you finally mastered. I laughed into the microphone. I'm not afraid of my past. The room roared. It felt like permission. After one, we spilled out onto the street. The air was cool and salty from the harbor. We walked toward the promenade, a small, loud parade with me at its center. Julian followed, his camera bag slung over his shoulder. The city is softer after midnight, I said. Everyone films now. A cyclist coasted past, his phone held up, capturing our little procession. I told myself public is a neutral space. I told myself sunrise belongs to whoever gets there first. We reached the railing overlooking the dark water. One last frame, Julian said, before you become forever. Frames don't control people, I said. People control frames. He smiled. He took my hand, just for the composition of the shot. Look out at the water, not at me. I held my body still, a statue that breathes. This is art, I told myself. Not cruelty. My phone buzzed. Liam, do you need water? Do you have a ride? It's been a long week. The words were a hand held out through glass. I left them unread. My story needed to finish building its shape. Cass asked my friend to take a photo of us. The whole group. He stood beside me, adjusting my shoulder. Breathe like the sea, he whispered. I breathed in the salt and the night. I told myself Liam would understand the grammar of this moment once I explained it to him in the morning. With morning words, we walked back to the club. The DJ saw me. He shouted my name into the mic. The bride has to bless the floor one last time. I lifted both hands, turned slowly. A field of phones rose up to meet me. Julian lifted his camera. This is the frame, he said. I gave the room my best face, and I let the night draw itself around me. The family restaurant smelled like garlic bread and strained politeness. Liam's mother, Moira, waved me to a seat. The light is best here, dear. I told myself I would steer the room. Liam arrived with his parents. He chose the far end of the long table. A small nod for me. A quiet hello for everyone else. Menus rosa like tiny shields. A cousin asked, that sunrise clip on Instagram, was that real? Anglesly, I said smoothly. The moment had context. Moira folded her napkin into a perfect clean bar. Did Liam agree to your plan, Alara? The plan was honest closure, I said, my voice bright. I was completely transparent. His father, Clive, looked at Liam, then back at his water glass. Has the wedding date moved? The date stands, I said. Liam passed a basket of bread toward his mother, then toward me. His eyes never lingered. His tone was perfectly even. It felt like sand under my skin. His new key glinted on the key ring when he reached for his wallet. Not fancy, just new. What door does that one own? I asked, keeping my tone light. It's new, he said. Secrets wear metal. Readiness wears metal, he replied. The table fell quiet in that polite way that cuts you. My sister Chloe asked, did you read the comments under the sunrise clip with Julian? Comments are noise, I said. Some noise is a signal, Alara. A signal is what I say it is. And I let the night draw itself around me. The family restaurant smelled like garlic bread and strained politeness. Liam's mother, Moira, waved me to a seat. The light is best here, dear. I told myself I would steer the room. Liam arrived with his parents. He chose the far end of the long table. A small nod for me. A quiet hello for everyone else. Menus rosa like tiny shields. A cousin asked, that sunrise clip on Instagram, was that real? Anglesly, I said smoothly. Is Uncle Liam sad? Because you picked another man for your last night before the wedding? The swing slowed, as if the question had weight. I felt heat rise in my face, then drain away. Grown-ups. Grown-ups make complicated stories so they can learn, I stammered. Does learning always hurt one person more? He asked. Before I could answer, Liam was there. He knelt down and tied Joel's loose shoelace. His hands were steady. There might be ice cream later, he told Joel, if the adults need some time to talk. He did not say my name. He did not look at me. The space between us felt like a pane of thick, cold glass. Chloe stood beside me. You can still choose to be kind, she whispered. I was kind. I didn't lie. You were loud, she said. And loud isn't the same as honest. The apartment felt different, colder. The two mugs were back in their assigned places. Mine by the fruit, his by the stove. Distance is just a trick for drama, I said to him as he walked past. Distance keeps a room calm, he answered. On the balcony, there were 2 chairs, but only 1 cushion. I went to the office nook. The faint smell of toner hung in the air, as if the printer had been working a solo shift. I pulled the top drawer. Click. Still locked. On the console table by the door, a plain, unsealed envelope lay in the outbox tray. My name was written on the front in his clean block letters. No stamp. I flipped it over, put it back face down. I told myself paper only wins when people clap for it. The next day, things were worse. Sharper. 3 new binders sat on the living room shelf. Perfect spines. Home. Auto. Bank. Are we opening a museum? I laughed. Sorting helps before a heavy week, Liam said. He placed my mug by the fruit bowl, his by the stove. The distance was exact. A map he alone could read. On the wall planner, a date 2 days from now wore a bright red circle. No caption. Underneath it, a yellow sticky note. Bring forms. I lifted the corner of the note, pressed it flat, lifted it again. The paper made a tiny sound, like an insect's wing. The printer in the nook whirred to life by itself. It fed a single, blank page onto the tray. I tried the drawer again. Click. Organizing is just hiding, I called out to him. For people who like labels more than they like love. Abbe. He said nothing. That bothered me more than any answer would have. I saw him in the parking garage later, standing at the trunk of our car with a clipboard. I need the spare key fob, he said, not looking at me. Doing inventory. There's a lot of movement coming up. Inventory sounds like an ending. Lists help during times of stress, he said. He wrote down the fob's serial number under a line at the top of the page. The line read, Statement. Our car was parked facing the exit, not the wall. Planning a quick getaway? I asked. I like to be ready. Ready sounds like running. Ready sounds like care, he said. I put the fob in his hand. He thanked me like a clerk thanks a customer. The thank you sat between us like a receipt. That night, he handed me my tea. His eyes were on the street below. We could try counseling, I said. We could do a joint post, explain everything with kind words. I have meetings already scheduled, he said. What kind of meetings? Personal. Mystery is for children, Liam. Clarity is coming, Elara. The way he said it, coming. Like a train he could hear down the tracks, but I couldn't. You should forgive me, I said, my voice rising. Out loud. Forgiveness and plans are not the same thing. Plans are just costumes for punishment. No, he said, his voice terribly quiet. Plans are what keep shouting from turning into harm. He looked at me then, his eyes clear and calm. Structure is what keeps a heart from being cut open twice. The words were awful, because they didn't shout. And quiet words are so much heavier. The elevator in the hall dinged. Footsteps paused outside our door. We both held our breath. The steps moved on. The red circle on the wall planner seemed to glow in the lamplight. He looked at the street. I'm going to handle things properly. The word landed like a tool on a table. Simple, heavy, used for building, not for show. And what does properly mean? I laughed, a bright, brittle sound. More lists? More tidy piles? He just looked at me. Properly, he said, means properly. I chose the courthouse lobby. I thought the marble and the high ceilings would make any mistake look small, manageable. I carried 24 white roses. I had a small card in my pocket with my apology written on it. Plain words. Honest words. This time, for real. I told myself I would get there first. I would set the scene. I would reset the week. The glass doors slid open with a soft whoosh. The air inside was cool and smelled of floor wax and bureaucracy. A security guard asked my name. I said it. My voice sounded steady. Recorded. The badge printer next to him clicked and whirred, spitting out labels in a tight mechanical rhythm. Click, click, click. Then I saw him. Liam stepped out of the elevator. His shoulders were straight. He wasn't alone. A man in a dark, forgettable blazer walked beside him. Liam walked toward the information desk. He didn't look at me. The guard looked from me, to them, and back again. The man in the blazer approached me. Are you Elara Vance? He asked. His voice was flat. I nodded. I have documents to deliver to you. A public scene really isn't necessary, I said, lifting the roses a little higher. A shield. Service will be complete when the papers are in your hand, he said. The printer beside him spat out another badge. Click. It curled forward like a small, white tongue. He held out a slim, legal-sized envelope. I took it. The paper felt thin, but it was heavy with meaning. Through the small, clear window, I saw my name. Typed. Clean. No blur, no mercy. Liam finally spoke, but not to me. He thanked the guard. He thanked the server. All future communication will be handled via email only, he said, his voice echoing slightly in the large space. There's an inventory schedule attached. You can choose a time to pick up your personal items. The apartment will be my temporary residence during the process. There will be no hallway talks. No late-night calls. His words were stones, each one laid carefully in a wall between us. Can we speak alone? I whispered. The process will speak now, Alara. The bachelorette party. It was a test. A stupid test. Not a betrayal. He finally looked at me. His eyes were not angry. They were just empty. Like a room someone had already moved out of. Tests still land on real people, he said. His voice never wavered. A woman I knew from the atrium walked in. She saw us. The roses. The envelope. Her face went neutral. She drifted sideways to stare intently at a potted plant. I felt heat gather under my collarbone. I slid a finger under the flap of the envelope. The words were simple. Cold. A petition to dissolve the domestic partnership. Temporary financial and possession orders. A proposed schedule for access to shared items. A line about the return of a spare key fob. A line about exclusive use of the apartment. A first review date. Circled in tidy ink that wasn't mine. I read my name again. The last name I had not yet taken. It sat on the page like a brick. I wish you health and calm, Liam said. It sounded rehearsed. I will follow the plan. I hope you will too. He turned toward the elevators. He waited, his hands at his sides. His ring was gone. I can fix this, I said, my voice cracking. The optics. I have a caption ready. I can explain the context. Optics are not repair, he said without turning around. People deserve quiet, Alara. Not edits. The badge printer clicked again, and again. A steady, indifferent metronome. Click, click, click. A coworker from my building pushed through the turnstile with a coffee. She saw the roses, the envelope, my face. She studied the lid of her cup like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. The guard asked me if I needed a chair. I shook my head. I was fine. I stayed standing. A petal from one of the roses tipped and fell, small and white against the pale gray floor. The elevator doors opened. Liam stepped inside. He faced forward. He did not look back. I'll send the email with the time slots by this evening, he said as the doors began to close. I hope you'll choose one. The doors slid shut with a soft, final slide. I stood there, holding the envelope. The roses felt heavy and stupid in my arms. The printer clicked. The guard turned a page on his clipboard. The woman from the gallery hurried toward the exit. A single rose petal caught a draft from the door. It skated across the marble floor and came to rest by a sign. I held the envelope with both hands. I thought of the red circle on the wall planner, the sticky note that said bring forms, the binders, the key fob number written under the word statement. All the small, quiet lines had been leading here. I had called them paper. They had been a road. I tucked the little card with my practiced lines into my pocket. It felt thin and wrong now. The envelope felt correct in a way that burned. The printer spooled another badge. Click. The sound set the beat for the rest of my day.